From Variety, celebrating more than 120 years covering the business of entertainment, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. Shrieking star and executive producer Jason Segel says his approach to his career has changed over the years.
I'm having an interesting experience now on Shrinking, which is I really thought my 20s were my prime. So in my 20s, I was like, oh my God, this is it. And then in my 30s, I had a little sense of mourning, like, oh, the best part happened. Then my 40s have arrived, and I'm like a grown adult who's learned all the lessons from his 20s. And now all of a sudden, the parts are richer. They're like man parts of people who have life experience.
I'm Michael Schneider, and on this episode of the Variety Award Circuit Podcast, we talk to Jason Segel about his Apple TV Plus comedy Shrinking, working with Harrison Ford, what's to come in Season 3, and what's next for the actor/writer/producer. But first, on the roundtable, we look at the frenzy of last-minute Emmy campaigning as voting got underway on Monday and more. It's all next on this edition of the Variety Award Circuit Podcast. Stay close. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers.
Wow.
We are in there.
What's a reflection of this song? Hi, Michael.
Hey, everyone. It is the roundtable, and we are voting right now, literally, as we speak.
I hope everyone is voting.
Yes. After all of this nonsense, you better be voting wisely. You went to all the panels, you ate all the food, you did all the thing, you watched all the episodes, you took all the selfies. Now it's time to actually get down, mark that ballot, make your vote count. Democracy may not exist in our country anymore, but it still does exist in the Emmy race. So that's something.
Let's hope.
Kinda. They haven't done away with mail-in ballots or in the Emmys yet. So,
well, they have because it's all electronic now.
That's true. That is true.
Actually, they already took over. Can I also say, for the first time, and I don't know if I ever told you guys this, any organization I vote in, I always vote on the last day because I always say I want to get everything in. This was the first time when the voting opened, I turned in my ballot as fast as possible. I wanted to just be done.
You're just done with it.
Like, get it out of here. I'm so done with this.
Yeah, and I think that's the general feeling we're thinking after like another weekend of craziness. So the big coda probably was Televerse, which was quite a 3-day event.
It's so interesting to me that it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Of course, this was events. This was the first time FYC took on the Phase 2 with a bunch of panels. But they also partnered with the women who run the ATX TV Festival to create a mix of, so the FYC, like there was FYC panels and there were like reunion and fun TV festival-ish panels.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were mushed together, I don't know how cohesive that felt. I felt like it was two separate things going on at the same time.
I mean, it was also hosted by Michael Schneider and Emily Longaretta, the whole Televerse.
Look, man, you were thrown in there. You were in there at the end with Andor, right?
I had one event, actually technically not, because I had to end up swapping and take the other Andor event that took place outside of Televerse. So technically, I never made it there.
There's so many things.
We're all over it. We were moderating all over the place. I technically I did 3 FYC Televerse panels, and then I did 1 Televerse premiere panel for a show that hasn't come out yet. So it was very interesting, a mix of talking about shows we've been talking about for 84 years and talking about shows that haven't premiered yet.
Yeah, and I think that was the plan with, in talking to the folks over at the TV Academy, Maury McIntyre, the idea was originally that they wanted to focus more on the new, that they wanted this to be a festival that focused on premieres in addition to the reunions and make it more of a, almost Sundance style event. But, tis the season for FYC. That's how you're going to get all the talent. That's how you're going to get all the members out, especially in its first year. So it sort of ultimately made sense to backtrack a little bit and make it much more of an FYC festival. And, timing wise, I guess, that does make sense. And that's how you're getting big stars out on a Friday or a Thursday, and of course on a Saturday to the JW Marriott in downtown. So I think there's a germ of something here. I don't think Thursday necessarily works until you're a much more established event. But if they were to do Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, they started to get the crowds on Saturday.
Yeah, it was busy Saturday.
Yeah,
I don't know that the convention center is the place to do it, because I know being downtown is so tough. I understand the space. The first 2 days I was like, this space is way too big. On Saturday, I kind of understood it because there were crowds, but the rooms were so big for these I just felt like that was not the right venue.
Yeah, although I don't know where else you would put it, because you need a place that still does have big ballrooms, theater capabilities.
Do you though? What events were big ballroom events?
I think you don't need to do it. Because some were going on simultaneously, but what if you just did this at like thinking like the Beverly Hilton or something like that, and they have they have these little side rooms. Like the big ballroom could be for biggest the drama panels or whatever.
Right, White Lotus.
Then utilize the other office space. No, what are they called?
Yeah, ballrooms. Yeah. No, I think their ambition is to go bigger. And so their ambition is to be a little Comic-Con-ish. And, to that degree, you need, not necessarily a convention center, because that's too big. So they did do it at a hotel. So, hotels have decent sized convention space, but it wasn't the LA Convention Center, which, that would be too big. So, maybe, and they have a relationship with the JW Marriott, since that's right next to where the LA Live is. So I think that's pretty much going to continue to happen that way. And if you do start to get bigger crowds and you don't want it to feel like everyone's crammed into each other, you can breathe. It is nice that you can breathe at a place like that and get a lot of steps. I got a lot of steps that weekend.
Me too. So. And the panels were good, I will say. They were fun. There was a good group of panels. Almost all the big nominated shows were there. All the big stars were there. I think it was, as you can tell by the yawning, I think it was the amount of events leading up to that weekend. Obviously, voting started Monday, so that whole week before we were at events and panels, and then it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday from morning to night, and then Sunday was two big other, HBO and Apple decided to have a breakfast event and then this later event. So it was just nonstop. And while we're saying this, I'm also thinking of the talent and the publicists and the agents that were at every single one of these. It was just so much packed into a weekend.
You gotta you look at these shows and they came to campaign. Look at Severance. How many things did they do this last weekend?
Oh my gosh!
They were at Cinespia, with the marching band, and then they were doing podcast episodes.
That was a Zoolander event. That was a Zoolander screening.
Yeah, but that's Ben Stiller related. So
and then I spoke to him the next morning at the Apple event, and he was there. I was like, I literally said to him, I was like, "How are you here?" And he was like, "I fly out in 12 hours to go start filming Fockers." So it's like this man is just nonstop, and they are putting in the work. And of course, it wasn't just Severance. I will say the Apple event, they also had the Dope Thief team there, which I thought was so smart to do, because obviously Brian Tyree Henry was nominated, and that show hasn't been in the conversation as much as other shows. So smart to have him there too.
Yeah. No, but give it to everyone. They are campaigning. The pit folks, again, everywhere. The studio folks, again, everywhere.
Yep. It was nice at the HBO event also to see some of the Somebody Somewhere out there celebrating their final season, and obviously Jeff Hiller's nomination. So him and Bridget were making the rounds, chatting with people. It was really nice.
And by the way, two of the tallest people.
So tall. Jeff and Bridget.
That's why you don't realize it, because when they stand next to each other, you don't realize that, they're both tall. They're both giants.
I know. Bridget at one point was like, "We got to go sit." We were all talking and she was like, "I can't." She was in like 6-inch heels. I was like, "You're already so tall. Why do you have these giant heels on?"
We are in the land of tall people, because our variety cover this week, Jacob Elordi and Oscar Isaac. Jacob Elordi's 6'7".
Yeah.
The big ass tree.
An actual giant.
Yeah. Can I just say, Severance in the Pit, I think really turning it on really does just speak to how tight that race is for drama series. And like, it's one of those that like, it's always hard to gauge out what is the needle mover, but like every vote counts kind of thing. This is like, if you're online, stay online kind of thing right now. And TCA winners were announced today. I think it's today what we're talking. And Pitt won Program of the Year. 7 out of the last 10 go on to win drama or comedy, depending because they do a combined thing. But that's a good sign for the Pit. So, that also has predicted some really surprising, quote unquote, upsets like The Handmaid's Tale, which became the first streamer. So it could mean that. So I see why they're going so hard right now.
I also think the judge of, the comedy race is similar. I think Hacks and the studio are both kind of, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And putting in a little bit of more work. I would say the studio's putting in more work. Hacks is everywhere, but studio is really, really everywhere, especially Seth. I mean, I would say Seth is like he is all over the place. And this weekend, I mean, we saw them at Televerse, and then I feel like I kept seeing them around. I saw Seth at this lunch I was at. I mean, just all over the place. And what's interesting is the bear is nowhere.
Yeah, no, the bear is out of the conversation. I was about to say, I think Seth was helping you move into your new place, right? It's like whatever you need. But to be fair, also, the Jean Smart is on Broadway right now, so that's made it a little bit tough for her to be around. But the three creators of Hacks, they've been everywhere. They're still everywhere with Hannah as well, and they've been like everyone's been doing food. Hacks sent around a lovely food spread the other day to some of the publications, including our own. So we've been well fed. Also by some of these different shows, but especially Hacks.
Yeah.
But then Severance and Studio had juices at Erewhon. So,
it is a little bit surprising. I mean, even Shrinking's putting in the work. I mean, they brought Harrison Ford out to that Televerse.
I'm telling you, man, if and when, because I'm going to say if and when, because I'm really feeling like Harrison just keeps climbing and climbing. I'm like, I think he might just pull it off. But this will, once and for all, cement campaigning matters, guys. The whole like, I don't want to campaign, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you don't, you can't win. And he did nothing season 1 and even get nominated for it. And here he is season 2. And I think my man's about to pull it off.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. And I should mention that our guest this week, which we'll get to later in this episode, is Jason Segel. And we talk a lot about working with Harrison and Shrinking, and how Shrinking has become, quite a show, quite a contender in season 2. And I think season 3, with guest stars like Michael J. Fox and Jeff Daniels and Candice Bergen and others, is going to be probably even bigger. So we'll have to see how that fares next year. Speaking of doing interviews and campaigning, of course, we've been talking a lot about the talk space and how Jimmy Kimmel's recent Billboard campaign basically threw his support behind Stephen Colbert. And Clayton, you had a chance to talk to Kimmel to talk a little bit more about that. And I love me a no holds barred Kimmel. He just went for it.
Kimmel. First time I ever formally interviewed him, I obviously met him before, and he was game. Aside from talking about Steven and just really falling in love with, like, telling us about how much he loves Steven, he was also just very forthcoming about the story about the show losing $40 million a year. He doesn't find that to be true, and he brought up a really good point during the interview. He's like, "Listen, all of a sudden, studios and networks are cool losing $40 million a year. Like, that seems very unlikely, so whether or not like it's exactly accurate or not, I don't know enough behind the scene numbers to, say it or not, but he kind of called bullshit on it. But Stephen Colbert, I mean, listen, I don't know. Jimmy Kimmel gave the world permission to like not vote for him and Daily Show. And there's only 3 in the category. And there are some who believe that Daily Show is going to win anyway, because Jon Stewart didn't take out a billboard. Just want to point that out. So I think how does it not happen? And how do you not want to make a moment out of this?
Right.
Because it will be, I think, the moment of the night. Colbert going up there and giving a speech, and even if Daily Show does do it, he's got to bring him up there with him.
He's got to bring him up. That's kind of what I was thinking. If he does, he needs to be like, hey, this is an honorary award for Stephen. You come up here and give a speech. Although, I'm just saying, the show's on CBS this year.
Yeah.
There is a world in which Stephen's like, I'm not going. I'm not going to give this
to the show.
I mean, why? Like, part of me is like, if I'm him, do I need to go? Do I want to work and be at this show, at this network that hasn't been as supportive as maybe it should have been? We obviously don't know really what went on behind the scenes.
It's a good point, but Emmys are also about networking, and he might want to work after this, and he might want to run into.
He has networks enough. He doesn't.
But I think if he has a moment up there, I think the phone will ring the next day. Of
sure.
Hey.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think it's not about CBS. It's about his staff. It's about his team, and so he's going to want to go up there to properly thank them and pay tribute to them and say his piece. So that's why I think he still comes out there, and then maybe also tweak CBS on their own network, which would be a lot of fun too.
Wow.
So that doesn't hurt.
One last thing about Kimmel, aside from his great Matt Damon story, and you should just read that about how Matt Damon almost died in his house, and he thought no one would ever believe that he didn't Damon. I was also just really taken aback about how he's so hopeful about late night, and we had this discussion very often about how late night, people will say it's dying. I think we can use a synonym and say it's transforming. There's different, late night just looks different. And Mike, you wrote a great column this week on letting the podcasters in, because those are just talk shows. It's the same thing.
Yeah, maybe we just don't call it late night anymore, because it really is still talk. And, you listen or watch Conan on Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. And, you watch that on YouTube, and it's Conan O'Brien interviewing celebrities, being funny, being Conan. And that's a talk show. That's a variation of what he has been doing, just in a different form. Honestly, I still haven't gotten a good answer from CBS why they didn't just go that route. If they were, quote, losing $40 million a year, why not just turn Late Show with Stephen Colbert into a podcast and televise that at 11:35? Maybe eventually we'll get that answer. But there are so many of these shows now hosted by comedians, or other folks. I mean, Amy Poehler right now has one that everyone's talking about. Of course, there's the Smartless guys. I mean, there's so many of these shows now.
Alex Cooper has made, headlines every single week with her interviews.
Yeah. And of course, Mark Maron did it for, how many years, and he's about to leave, but he was kind of the OG on this.
Mm-hmm. And I will say there are some mornings, if it's a really good guest, I'll put them up on my TV, like on the YouTube app, I'll put up a podcast. So I'm technically watching it on my TV.
I mean, that's YouTube's whole thing right now is about their TV. 80%, I think they said.
Yeah, it's
YouTube users are watching on there. We watch it on our TV. My kids are watching it on TV. I don't think I ever seen. Think about it. I don't think I've ever seen Noah, at least in the last 4 or 5 years, watch YouTube on his tablet. He has a tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are TV shows. Yeah. So once you get past that bias that, oh no, it's online, the production value isn't the same, yada, yada, then put them in the talk mix, and suddenly you'll have dozens and dozens, maybe more. Mm-hmm. You have hundreds. I mean, we could enter this podcast.
Yeah.
So if we start to televise it, I guess we don't really tell it, but if we started to televise a word circuit, then we should be in the mix. So why not? And then that a whole new lease on life to the talk show category. You won't have just 3 nominees anymore. Make it so. So that's the thing. So meanwhile, we were talking about the comedy space, so let's talk about it a little bit more. Clayton, you also stopped by Abbott Elementary and got some skinny on what's happening next season. But nonetheless,
good.
I was just gonna say, Abbott is still, kind of the last great broadcast hope.
Yeah.
So,
look, they had told me this. I don't think they've ever let people do set visits before. I think maybe the first season they might have let people do it, but definitely not since then. So, I have to say just off the bat, the fact that show does not get nominated for production design every year is a travesty.
To me, though, that's like every show set I go to. I'm like,
but they built a school. Like there's a school built with classrooms. Like it is a school. And I think people just think they're in Philly or something. It was unreal that I was like walking. I was like, I think I'm in the school building right now. It really is. These two of the biggest sound stages at Abbott, but I mean at Warner Brothers. But Janelle was great. I asked her straight up. I was like, "Why do you think voters should vote for you?" She says, "I'm undeniable," and I took it. I was like, "Let's go."
That's Ava. Yeah,
I love that.
That is Ava.
Say what you need. Like you can want it. It's great. I spoke to Quinta also. She was like, "I would like." She was so glad Cheryl won the first year. She would love for her to win again, down the road. She wants everyone to win eventually. And I think a lot of them echoed the same thing. They just think being deemed a quote unquote sitcom always comes with not as highbrow like stuff, or this pre-notion. And I think there's truth to that. And I also love how much Quinta Brunson loves Seth Rogen, by the way. Because
they're good friends.
She has, and my panel last year, she said he is my dream blunt rotation. And I think that's incredible. But, after the writer's strike ended, but the actor strike was still going on, obviously they couldn't go back. He let her use his offices to write this season of Abbott. And she was just really happy. So it just shows that friendly, they're all nominated against each other, but they love each other too. But Janelle is a force. Next season, I saw Gregory's Apartment. We're going to be inside Gregory's apartment. There's a teacher, moving grades, and there's a guidance counselor this year.
Fun.
Which I hadn't realized we had never had a guidance counselor on that show. I feel like there would be one.
Yeah.
Do we know who's playing that guidance counselor?
We do not know.
Okay. We need to get on that.
Yeah.
So,
but there is a lot of fun stuff. I also went into Janine's apartment, which was it felt, I know it's Philly, but I can speak to Emily about this. It felt very Jersey, New York basement apartment.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
have you ever lived in one of those? And it was I was like, this is so, I was like, this is so accurate to anything that would be here.
So funny.
It's fun. Whether or not it wins anything, I mean, I don't know. Because supporting actress comedy is the wide open. I think it's any 5 of the 7 ish.
Yeah, who do you have right now?
I have Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, that's a pretty.
And I chalked it up to episode submission. I know we think it doesn't matter, but she submitted the pilot, and that's literally.
I will say, she has done nothing when it comes to campaigning. So we'll see. We'll see if that matters. Catherine Hahn was everywhere this weekend. I saw her. So
I saw on Gold Derby, our sister publication, how 68% of the users are predicting Hannah Einbender.
Yeah, actually, no, I'm looking right now. 73%.
And listen, I applaud everyone's feeling like that's going to happen. I've just been burned too many times about the Hannah stuff. I've literally predicted her 2 out of the last 3 times, and she keeps losing. And she shouldn't have lost last year. It won comedy series. So why? I just feel like this. I feel like she's Anna Klumsky in Veep. I feel like it's just that constant thing that once they realize it, it's too late.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year. Maybe it was throwing that Branzino up against the wall that did it for the voters. So fingers crossed. Because it's been great seeing Hannah out there on the circuit too. Mm-hmm. So, all right, gang. Well, now we're off to Shrinking Land. Jason Segel, had a great conversation with him about all things the show, but also his career, whether or not he would ever consider a How I Met Your Mother reunion, all sorts of fun stuff. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, we will see you next time here on the circuit. Bye.
Bye.
After the break, Emmy-nominated shrinking star Jason Segel. From Los Angeles, this is the Variety Award Circuit Podcast. And we're back. It's the Variety Award Circuit Podcast. I'm Michael Schneider. Shrinking star Jason Segel remembers how much he was juggling in his 20s. The hit sitcom How I Met Your Mother, along with films like Knocked Up and Forgetting Sarah Marshall and The Muppets. It was a heady time for the actor and writer, and really the ride hasn't stopped, but the roles have gotten meatier. In Shrinking, Emmy-nominated for Outstanding Comedy in Season 2, Segel plays Jimmy, a therapist who's dealing with his own grief.
As therapist, I think we're all on a hot streak.
Whoa, what are you wearing your sex boxes at work for, you little freak?
Dress for the job you want.
Wow, you better slow that down.
This is what I hate to come out of my office.
I think that Alice is worried about me.
It's rough to realize your kid knows how fragile you are.
Paul, do not do that. How are you so strong? I'm not fragile.
Why don't you try and stick to conventional therapy? Try and be normal.
You're not gonna start jimmying me?
Sorry, jimmying you?
You know, that weird therapy you do outside of the office that Paul hates?
Jimmying, though, huh?
Dear God.
I like that.
And that's our time.
It's just that it sounds like a movement or...
Jason Segel is up for Comedy Lead Actor at this year's Emmys. He stopped by Variety's Award Circuit podcast to talk about his most recent season of Shrinking, including the scenes that helped earn co-star Harrison Ford his first ever Emmy nomination in Supporting Comedy Actor, and what's to come in Season 3 with guests like Michael J. Fox and Jeff Daniels, who will be playing the father to Segel's character Jimmy. We also discuss whether he'd do a Muppet movie with fellow Shrinking executive producer Brett Goldstein. The answer is of course. And what he has on his plate next. We began by talking about why Segel doesn't have his own podcast, but if he did, what it would be about.
I don't podcast all that often. I got to be honest with you. If I'm asked to podcast, I generally podcast. But if there's not really a cause to podcast, I don't podcast.
Do you feel like the last star in America without their own podcast?
It does seem like everybody has a podcast. I don't really like doing stuff where I'm like, I'm Jason Segel and I'm here to entertain you.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean? Or I'm just much more comfortable when I'm acting.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat quiet and shy when I'm not working.
But you have passions. Like, would there be like a certain topic or maybe show or franchise that you could do like a fan podcast on?
I could definitely do some puppet stuff. I could do like a Sid and Marty Krofft podcast or something like that. I think more what I would be interested in doing a podcast about is like not getting discouraged creatively. That to me is like the superpower of making it in this job.
So kind of like a master class with Jason Segel to some degree.
Yeah, just like a don't give up kind of podcast. That's what I'd call it. Don't give up.
There we go. Yeah. Spotify's calling right now.
That's right.
No, I mean, I think that'd be an interesting podcast. I mean, you've learned a lot over the years and you've gotten to do so much and like go into your passions, like the, puppets and the Muppets and some of the things that and writing. And I mean, you've got, I'm sure, advice for days on what you've learned over these years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm the best person to take advice from because I have no real strategy career-wise about like trying to maximize a moment or anything like that or trying to build off the last thing you've done. Because every time I've tried to do that, I haven't really liked the next thing that I did.
Yeah.
I think when you try to capitalize off something that was successful, you end up doing a sort of less vital facsimile of it, until the train hits the wall.
Uh-huh.
I think for me, and it's why my output is a little bit slower, but I've come to I've come to like this methodology is I wait until I have an idea or a passion or a subject that is like nagging at me and I'm really interested in, and then I give over to it. And me and this idea make a deal like for the next 2 or 3 years, I'm going to push this boulder up the hill.
Well, it's funny you say that. It seems like your output is slower than most. Yeah. It doesn't seem like it, but maybe that's because you're sort of mixing the things that you're doing creatively on your own, but then also coming in and working on other people's passion projects. And so you've been very visible in some of the cool things that you've gotten to do over the past decade.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's funny. Every actor I talk to, or a lot of them at least, there's like a dissonance between how they feel and how they're perceived in terms of their output, because you spend like a lot of time out of work, just as an actor. It's unless you're one of those lucky people who just goes from job to job, even if you do 2 really cool jobs a year, each of them take like 8 weeks,
Right.
And so then you have like most of the year you're not working.
Yeah.
Or writing or hoping to make something. You're in like a different stage of the process. And so to me, it always feels a little slower than it is. But I don't know, maybe that's why I'm productive. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I can see that because I know for a lot of people, sometimes they're not seen for a while, and then suddenly they're in 3 things at once, and they're like, well, that wasn't on purpose. That's just the business.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, look, to write something sometimes takes a year or 2 years. I'm going to make a movie that I wrote that I've been thinking about for 10 years or so, and then actually wrote it a couple years ago. And then it takes a while to make a deal. It takes a while to get the cast together, and then the thing comes out. I think it's why when I'm thinking of ideas, you have a lot of ideas, at least I do. And most of them I try not to write, because that when you settle in on the one, this, when you settle in on the thing that you're going to work on, it's like a weird codependent relationship where you and this thing are sort of reckoning with each other until it gets done. But I will say I have a romantic notion of it because it's the closest thing that I have experienced to magic or alchemy or something. Like, I thought of this on my couch or on a walk or in the shower, and 3 years later, it exists. Like, it's a thing someone can see.
And then how hard is it to let it go and to move on to something else, something that was sort of your passion or something that was your life, and then you kind of move on to something else?
Yeah, by the time it's done, I'm pretty much ready to be done.
Yeah.
You're tired. It's always harder than you think it'll be. There's so much joy in it. And but it's tiring, and then you're ready to like sit down for a little while, and then another idea starts nagging at you. And I used to, in my 20s, you're working so hard to get your foot in the door that when someone says like, hey, the door is unlocked now, you really start churning stuff out. But I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that you're trading time for these ideas and these projects, and I try to make them about something that I'm really thinking about in my life or something I'm kind of reckoning with. That's what I found to be the projects I end up liking most, are things that where I'm trying to work through something within the project, so that maybe people who are also trying to work through that thing, it's helpful to them.
Yeah. And then it's personal. Those are always the best projects, the ones that resonate, I think, the most.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, one of your projects I still think about every once in a while is Dispatches from Elsewhere.
It's still my favorite.
It's one that was it felt very special, and God, that cast.
Yeah, look, it's like, I wish more people had seen it. Came out right during the pandemic. It's really, really special to me because I was... I couldn't think of anything to write since Muppets, and I was kind of trapped. And I had worked so much in comedy in my 20s and early 30s, and then I decided I wanted to try other stuff. And, when you decide to try other stuff, you're like, oh, people are going to be just as excited about this pivot as I am. But then it turns out nobody gives a shit, and you kind of have to like start from scratch again and get people interested in what you are interested in about yourself. And Dispatches from Elsewhere was like, it it was based on this real art experiment that happened in San Francisco about remembering your childlike wonder and art for art's sake and finding joy in everything around you, the everyday minutia. And I just poured all of myself into that. I had Sally Field and Richard E. Grant and Eve Lindley, Andre 3000.
Andre 3000. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I don't want to give too much away, but that show, I tried to pull something off in the finale that was like kind of funky, where it's sort of like creates this recursive loop where the end leads back into the beginning. I kind of ripped off Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking nobody was going to get it. And I finally sent out the finale script, and I'm waiting for reactions from my cast. And Andre was the first person I saw. And he just saw me from across the room. He said, "Hey, boss, you made a loop." I was like, yes, this is made for Andre 3000.
Right. That is fantastic. I just remember doing this was during pandemic time, so it was over Zoom, but I did a panel with you guys. And I still remember Andre 3000 in his box with a flute.
Yeah.
And just playing that flute. And of course, he eventually did his whole flute album.
Yeah. I actually learned, I have to credit Andre. He taught me a way that I like to be on sets now, that I really do credit to Andre, which is he showed up super prepared, killed scenes, and then disappeared into the night. And he never asked for anything. He was never like, he was just totally self-sufficient and then like a phantom. And then he was just like gone. And it is a way that I really admired the way he carried himself. Like, I'm just here to make art. I'll get my own coffee. I'll bring my own flute.
Yeah.
Whatever I need, I'll take care of.
Right. We got to get him on Shrinking.
Yeah. I mean, he's an amazing actor. He's a true artist. He does what is speaking to him. Like the old, this is a tangent, but the old Greek concept of genius isn't that you were a genius. It was that you had a genius. It was an external thing, and you were very lucky to have this genius that kind of funneled creative thoughts to you. And that is what it's like to be around Andre, is you feel like his channels are open and he's just like letting it flow through.
No, that's wild. No, there's something special. I mean, you get to work with a lot of special people.
Man, I have been so lucky. Well, it was I always have been very lucky in this way, but it was actually a conscious choice I made in my early 30s when I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do the rest of this job. I was looking ahead like, man, you have 50 years left of this if you're lucky.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? And I realized that surrounding myself, just getting near people I admired who seemed to have a better idea about why we're doing this stuff than I do, and asking them a ton of questions was going to be like the mentorship of a lifetime. Like, I have a chance to be an apprentice over and over and over again to people I admire.
And of course, you've been able to do that on Shrinking, of course, with Harrison.
Yeah.
But then this upcoming season, Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. And also Jeff Daniels.
Yeah. Jeff Daniels, who's playing your dad, and Candace Bergen.
Yeah. I don't get to work with Candace very much, and I don't get to work with Michael J. Fox very often in terms of our storylines. But I did get to meet him a couple times, and I got a chance to tell him what an idol he is to me and to a lot of the guys who I came up with who, I'll just speak from my 20s. I was doing my TV show, How I Met Your Mother, and I was also making these movies, and I was writing them, and it was like, it was actually very overwhelming, and I was very tired. But you would hear these stories about Michael J. Fox doing his show, and while he's doing Back to the Future and going from one set to another and sleeping in his trailer. And we used to talk about like, hey, if Michael J. Fox can do this, we can do this. And I got to tell him like, hey, I think you got me through a lot of these experiences.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And that's a smart way to look. And back then they demanded so much more of, the stars too, the things that they had to do, the promo campaigns, the song and dance numbers for the NBC 50th anniversary special, or whatever they were demanding Michael J. Fox to do. It's like, he's got the #1 movie in America and you're going to make him do this promo?
I know. And now we just podcast. Now all we have to do is podcast.
Yes, exactly. This is where we've come.
Yeah. We're in person right now, but sometimes you just podcast in your pajamas from the house.
Yeah, with no pants.
Yes.
So that's become the thing too. But no, that's great. But yeah, so Jeff Daniels.
I mean, that to me was the most brilliant casting for my dad because, like, you know, we're doing very similar stuff.
Mhm.
There were moments where in my head I was going to try to like mimic his movements. So I was kind of spying on him during scenes, and I realized, oh, we're already doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
How much had you known him? Had you had any interaction?
Not
with
at
him?
all, but you know, from terms of endearment, to Dumb and Dumber. I mean, he's one of those guys who, also, is it called Something Wild?
Something Wild?
Yeah, is it the Jonathan Demme movie? Is that the name of it?
I think so.
Yeah, that he's just so amazing in that movie. I think it is. But anyway, he's one of those guys like Peter Sellers who can't really be put into a box. He can do drama, he can do comedy, and guys like Jeff Daniels kind of broke my brain open about not letting yourself be limited about the kind of material you can do.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. The fact that he could go from that to Dumb and Dumber and back, and yeah,
It's crazy,
Yeah.
right?
so you guys hit it off. It sounds like.
Yeah, and I asked him a ton of questions, and I asked Harrison a lot of questions. These like, it's hard to stay in the business this long.
Yeah.
So like any of these guys who are still around working at the highest level have cracked some code that I want the secret.
Yeah. I mean, do you start to think a lot of what the second half of the career is going to look like as you sort of age into those certain sort of different kinds of roles?
Yeah, I'm having an interesting experience now on Shrinking, which is because you don't know any better, you're just you. I really thought my 20s were my prime. So in my 20s, I was like, oh my God, this is it. And then in my 30s, I had a little sense of mourning, like, oh, the best part happened. And then my 40s have arrived, and I'm like a grown adult who's learned all the lessons from his 20s. And now all of a sudden the parts are richer. They're like man parts of people who have life experience. And, on Shrinking, he's gone through the biggest tragedy you can go through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's now that my 20s were rehearsal, and now I get to play parts where you get to really express something.
Yeah, I've talked to several people who are in their 50s, and now in that, as I'm in that world,
Yeah.
and they've told me like the 50s suddenly was like their new 20s, like they're having a blast. If the 40s were rough, but they're really enjoying their 50s.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
And yeah, because in some ways it's sort of your second coming. The kids are mostly grown, and you're sort of you've already done a lot of what you needed to do, and you can kind of sit back a little bit and make choices that you want to make, as opposed to out of fear, but now out of, well, this is what I kind of want to do now.
Yeah, and I also think, like, when I look back, maybe it was just the kind of movies I was making, but a lot of the subject matter in your 20s about being afraid of girls. It's like all the movies are some variation of like,
Yeah.
I hope this girl will like me. And you start thinking about different stuff and experiencing different stuff. And so just the range of stories you can tell, I think, really broadens as you get older.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's, again, going back to Shrinking, the kinds of stories that you guys are telling. And, it is, where we talk a lot about what is genre anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think I've, cried harder than at certain moments of Shrinking,
Oh,
but
wow.
then laughed harder at certain moments too. And there's also that show for me, there's a lot of talk these days about how men of a certain age can't make friends anymore, that they're just having a hard time connecting with people.
Yeah.
Shrinking is sort of wish fulfillment too, to some degree. I see this core group of friends, this family, this connection between these people, and it's real. Like, damn, I kind of want that.
Yeah. I think that one of the great gifts for me of getting older is realizing that having a group of friends who are all willing to talk about that life is hard and tricky is a really important thing in dealing with the life is going to life at you. You know, it turns out it's not going to stop lifing at you. And when you have this group of friends, the great thing about it is not everyone is in the barrel at the same time. So when someone's going through their stuff, this group can be there to support them and get them out of the hole just in time for the other guy to find out some terrible news. And then you can go help the other friend. And I think that's what shrinking is about. It's this like really loving safety net of friendship and support. And I think the show really posits that it's important to be able to talk about that life is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in particular, sort of, the grief process, and everyone, it's the classic, everyone grieves in their own ways. And I was a little frustrated with some of the characters piling on Jimmy because he wouldn't, support the man who essentially killed his wife.
Yeah.
Like, I get where Jimmy's coming from. Of course, he's not really feeling like he needs to, like wave that olive branch with this guy. I mean, he's never going to feel like he wants to be friends with this guy, let alone even be in the same room with this guy. Why are you giving him so much guff?
Yeah. Look, my job is never to bail on my character's point of view. So I agree with you. You know, like that's my job is to think that that's right, until the moment when Jimmy realizes, saving this guy, forgiving this guy is forgiving myself. But up until then, all this resistance towards it, I think it's completely justified. But I think like any, the show's also about therapy. Like any good therapist will tell you, like, when you name an enemy, it's really like, what is it about them that reminds you of yourself? That's a bit what that whole storyline's about.
Yeah, yeah. And I also sense that, part of this is obviously Jimmy's relationship with his daughter, and this was important to her. So at the end of the day, who does he love most in the world? And, what is important for her, and how am I going to support her? So he also went to that train station out of love for his daughter as much as anything else.
Yeah, I also think, yes, I think that is true. But I think that the act itself is about setting something down that is inhibiting him from loving anybody completely, including his daughter. It's that Jimmy is walking around with this thing that is preventing him from moving forward. And until he kind of reckons with that dynamic, he's going to be stuck in the final stages of hell around this tragedy.
So since he has sort of now dealt with that, does that mean a different sort of theme for Jimmy in season 3?
Yeah, it does. So we pick like a true north for each season, and season 1 was grief, season 2 was forgiveness, season 3 is moving forward. And so it's all the sloppiness and clumsiness of, I don't know if you've gone through this, but you like decide to work on something and it's you alone with your issue, maybe with some help. And you finally get to the point where you're like, you know what? I think I've got this figured out. I'm going to take it for a spin out there. Mm-hmm. And then you go out into the real world and realize, nope, it wasn't quite as ready as I thought.
Right. There's still some work to be done.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm excited for the new season. I
am too.
I think, the show really, it feels like has hit the zeitgeist now.
Cool.
And we're talking about it more. Harrison's out there. First Emmy nomination for him, which is pretty incredible.
Finally, Harrison Ford catches a break.
Finally. It's about time. So.
He deserves it, man. Let me tell you. There's a scene I'm sure people are talking about who have watched the show where Harrison Ford gives this speech in the finale about, I'm not sure how much longer I get to do this because he's suffering from Parkinson's in the show. His character is. And it's the best acting I've ever seen. Yeah. Certainly in person. I was sitting there watching him give this monologue, and it was sort of the bullseye of my ethos about what art is, which is somebody performing an act of self-exploration for an audience. everything he's saying in that speech is a 1-to-1 ratio for what I'm sure you're thinking about at 83 years old at the end of any career. I don't know how much longer I get to do this. What an honor it is to get to do it with all of you. How much this career is meant to me and all that. And you're watching him just say these words, and we're all crying disproportionate to the occasion. Like, it's not totally right for the scene, but it works.
Yeah. No, I think we're all kind of crying in the, sitting on our couches along with it too. And, justifiably, Harrison getting some of the best reviews of his entire career now for what he's doing on Shrinking.
Yeah, because the show is all the different tones, like you said, and so is Harrison Ford, and so you get known for a long time as the number one, like the Indiana Jones. He is Indiana Jones. Yeah. He is the president. Right. All of these things where that is certainly a facet that he's a master at, but he's also funny. He's also weird. He's also sensitive. And so the show really has allowed him to show this, like, he contains multitudes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So what else? You mentioned you've got your film.
Yeah.
How much do we know about that? How much is out there?
Not too much yet. I'm going away to shoot something first in England, which I'm excited about. A really lovely movie with some really awesome people. I feel very, very, very lucky about that. But the movie that I shoot in January will be the first movie that I've written in a long time.
Yeah,
and so I'm really excited about that.
So what can you tell me? What's it about, or at least sort of the genre area?
I would say that it's a thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like harkens back to the Fatal Attractions, the Cape Fears, and it's a two-hander. Well, I'm sure we'll announce the cast pretty shortly, but I'm really excited about it. It's an idea that has been haunting me for about a decade, and I finally felt. I finally felt like I was smart enough to write it, if that makes any sense. I had this idea maybe 10 years ago, and I thought, oh, somebody should write that, and then finally I kind of aged into the idea.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a humor aspect to it, or is this hardcore, thriller?
Well, I think everything is funny.
Yeah.
I think that being in pain is funny. I think that being scared is funny. I think humor is a really, really great Trojan horse to lower people's defenses. We do it with drama on Shrinking, lower the defenses so then the other stuff can get in and really get you.
Yeah.
And I think we do that with thriller aspects, suspense and thriller in the movie. Yeah. And James Ponsoldt is going to direct it, who we made a movie together called, he co-wrote it with me. We made a movie together called End of the Tour a decade ago, and he directed a bunch of Shrinking, including the pilot. And so he's an amazing creative partner.
That's great. Great. So there's a little bit of a shorthand there.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
What about on the novel front?
Oh, man, you know about the novels. Yeah.
You've been pretty prolific with those.
Yeah, I think I got 7 of them. Really crazy. My dream is to turn... So I have this series of novels called Nightmares. They're called Nightmares Beware, I think. No, the novels are called Nightmares. The first script I ever sold was called Nightmares Beware. The novels are an adaptation of this script. And I would like to make that one day, either as a TV series or as a movie. It's the first thing I ever wrote. I suffered from terrible night terrors when I was a kid, dreams I couldn't wake up from. And so I wrote these Roald Dahl age young adult novels that I'm in love with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So possibility of adapting them into...
Yeah, I hope so. I have a script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a series, maybe.
Yeah. It sure could.
All right.
Yeah. Just reach out to this podcast and they'll get in touch with
there
me.
We go. Care of Variety.
Yes, that's
so.
Right.
And of course, I'm legally obligated to ask you if there's ever any talk of
Dracula puppet musical.
Exactly. That's one. Yeah.
I perform it every once in a while. I do secret performances of the Dracula puppet musical around town. I did one at Hotel Cafe last year, and
do you promote these?
No, I just show up. I just show up and do them with Dracula. It's really weird. I would like to do one soon at the Bob Baker Marionette Theater,
which
is just amazing.
Fantastic.
And they're trying to buy their theater now, and we're trying to help them. So you can look into that if you're listening and you're passionate about puppetry. But yeah, what was that the question?
How much? Well, I was going to say, how much do you and Brett geek out over puppets and just in general?
So when Brett pitched me Shrinking, he had a poster for my Muppet movie behind his head in the Zoom.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought he was just trying to like woo me.
I remember him saying this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but it turns out it was authentic. Like he's as big a Muppet fan as I am. He says no one's bigger fan than I am. But yeah, he would be a great person to make a Muppet movie. I would make another one too, if the right thing came together.
Maybe two together.
Yeah.
What collab on the ultimate Muppet movie?
For sure. That was also the dream of a lifetime, to get to make that Muppet movie. It meant the world to me. For me, the Muppets were my first kind of comic influence. And Kermit the Frog, we may have talked about this before, but Kermit the Frog is like the acting style I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's like Tom Hanks if you're a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
It's a great comparison. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart, Tom Hanks, Kermit the Frog. They're all doing the same style of acting, which is like for the next half hour, for the next hour and a half, if it's a movie, I am you. You know?
Yeah. And, there's, it's funny, when your Muppet movie came out, then suddenly it's like, Muppets are back. They're back.
Yeah.
And I feel like that franchise, it just struggles to maintain sort of that, I'm hoping that the next burst of energy brings back the Muppets a little more to the zeitgeist.
Yeah. I think I was at the age then when I just wanted to do one, because I had so much other stuff I want to do. But I think that perhaps what something like that needs is, you're never going to replace Jim Henson. But you need somebody with a kind of singular vision to steer the ship, I think, for a little while.
Yeah.
But to me, like the Muppet movies I love are always about underdogs putting on a show.
Yeah. Those are always, the fun. And that's what, the Muppet Show was every week.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think everybody except for like people that you don't really want to be friends with anyway feels like an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
We all feel a little bit like there are parts of us that are known to us that we want other people to see, not quite understood, aspirational, all these like great things the Muppets are of like, if we could just show them, they'd see, and it would make the world better.
Right. And the world needs to be a little better these days.
For sure.
And needs to be taught some of that Kermit empathy.
Yeah.
No, I was going to ask you about How I Met Your Mother.
Oh. If there's going to be a reunion?
If there would ever be anything in terms of just a check-in on what's everyone up to? What's, how are Marshall and Lily these days? What's...
Yeah, listen, that show changed my life. I would do anything they asked me to do.
So... I mean, everything else eventually has some sort of like, let's revisit it for a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I think they did so many flash forwards on that show, though. My recollection is you kind of know what everybody's up to.
True. This is true. Up until the very end, the controversial ending.
Yeah, that's right. I always loved that Marshall was like kind of an enigma because he could become a Supreme Court justice, but he also could like lose a tuna sandwich and spend an episode just like looking for a sandwich,
Yeah.
He was all things.
Yeah. That was back in the days when you needed to do 22 episodes. So sometimes like maybe not a lot's going to happen.
We did 24 a year.
24 a year.
For 9 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's the good old days of television.
My gosh. Yeah. But I mean, it really did change my life. It's funny. You can't see these things when you're in them, but what a dream job and what an amazing group of people.
Yeah. No, that was sort of the kind of the part of the last hurrah of broadcast television as we knew it.
Yeah. But I think I don't follow this stuff too much, but it's like back on streaming and stuff because there's a whole new generation of people who look like children to me, but I think they're actually adults and we're just getting older who love How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, no, that's one of the great things about streaming is that things are now available for people to go back and binge. And this generation, the Gen Zers, they're certainly discovering all of these older shows. And
we need to get Dispatches from Elsewhere onto Netflix.
Yeah.
Can you help make that happen?
All right. care of Variety.
Okay, gotcha.
There's a lot of things we need to work on. We will
good.
get it happen. But yeah, we definitely need more people to see that.
Yeah.
So, well, Jason, thanks for dropping on by.
Man, this was a blast. It was so easy.
Yeah. No, always a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks,
man. That's Jason Segel, Emmy nominated for Comedy Actor of the Apple TV Plus series Shrinking. And that's it for this edition of Variety's Award Circuit podcast. Michael Schneider is the producer and Aaron Greenwald is the editor. Be sure to subscribe to the Award Circuit podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. Also, head on over to Variety.com and click on the Award Circuit tab to find the latest awards predictions and key races, as well as your daily fix of news, analysis, and reviews. For Jazz Tanke, Emily Longaretta, and Clayton Davis, I'm Michael Schneider, and we'll see you on the circuit.